Would you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times, and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
So, I mean, woke is sort of the idea that this is going to be one of those moments that goes viral.
Green M&M, you will notice, is no longer wearing sexy boots. Now she's wearing sensible sneakers. Why the change? Well, according to M&M's, quote, we all win when we see more women in leading roles, because leading women do not wear sexy boots. Leading women wear frumpy shoes. The frumpier, the better. That's the rule.
Xbox has also announced they're going woke too, because of climate change, that they're adding a new feature to their default settings. So if you own an Xbox, you can upload this new program, and it will turn off after so long to save the environment, the power. And also they're saying the energy saving shutdown feature is going to have a slower boot time. Ted Cruz writes on Twitter, first gas stoves, then your coffee, now you're gunning for my Xbox.
If this is what you need for validation, an M&M that is a color that you think is associated with feminism, then I'm worried about you. I think this is the kind of thing that makes China say like, oh good, keep focusing on that. Keep focusing on giving people their own color M&Ms while we, take over all of the mineral deposits in the entire world.
They finally raised rates, the bank got crushed. Well, why weren't they paying attention? Silicon Valley Bank is a woke Biden bank. They were holding seminars on Lesbian Visibility Day. Now, if you want to hold a Pride Month, that's fine, but you got to be able to chew gum at the same time and walk. So, keep an eye on the balance sheet, guys.
It's not that it's actually going to offset emissions, okay? The level of reduction is infinitesimal, but they're trying to recruit your kids into climate politics at an earlier age. Make them climate conscious now.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. You're right. They're going after the children.
Of course they are. But again, what's the point of video games? It's for kids to be kids. Now you sit down and pick up a controller and they're like, by the way, the world's on fire. Ah! You know what I mean? You just want to play the game.
In other words, they want to run the country the way the executives at Silicon Valley Bank ran that financial institution. Take huge, risky gambles on crazy woke projects, virtue signaling with no financial integrity.
Woke M&Ms have returned. The green M&M got her boots back, but apparently is now a lesbian maybe. And there's also a plus-sized, obese purple M&M.
Hello everyone, once again from the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. And does it get more woke than socialism? Because today we are talking about the war on woke. More importantly, we are just talking about how ridiculous it's got. Because although, of course, we know the original meaning of woke has nothing to do with what people are saying today, but at least maybe you can understand it when it's talking about like certain things like liberal identity politics and stuff like that. Now it seemingly has no meaning. Like, as we're going to talk about in the video, Xbox has gone woke for power saving modes. It's now anti-woke to use a gas stove. And now apparently as well, when a bank crashes because of like terrible capitalist practices, then what gets blamed? Wokeness gets blamed for financial crashes now. It's absolutely insane. And of course, lots of people will be saying, well, the people who say banks have gone woke don't actually believe that. And I would agree with you to some extent. I do fully believe there's lots of people like Tucker Carlson who doesn't think banks have gone woke. They're just saying it because it plays into this whole cultural narrative. But then I believe there's probably about half of these pundits who are so stupid, they do think banks have gone woke and stuff like that. And then, of course, loads of actual people, normal people in conservative circles actually do believe this, because even if the people being paid millions to be these Fox News propagandists don't believe it, when they say it, people start believing it. And now we have this ridiculous landscape where just everything is called woke. And of course, we can laugh at it because it's so stupid. But at the end of the day, it's being weaponized to attack left-wing people. And it's also, for a lot of people, a nice cover where they can just say really racist stuff. They can just say really transphobic or bigoted things. And then it's like, well, I'm just pushing back against wokeness. I'm just criticizing wokeness. We're having this war on wokeness because wokeness is bad. And because it's like a catch-all term, because you're criticizing trans people or gender ideology at the same time as saying like Xbox has gone woke for power saving modes, because it's so vague, people use that as plausible deniability, and they use that to mask their racism. Like, we're not going to be talking about it much in this video, but my last video was on The Last of Us and the anti-woke backlash. These people were complaining, like Sarah, for example, who was a white actress in the game being played by a black actress. That is woke, and woke is bad. But what is their actual problem? Their problem is they're racist and they don't want a black actress playing this character, right? When they're complaining about like the wokeness of episode 3, that episode with a gay couple, they're not actually complaining about anything real apart from they just don't want to see a gay couple on screen, right? And that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying woke is used to mask bigotry. But today I just want to focus on the most insane stories. So what we're going to do, first look at that author who couldn't actually define woke, despite writing a book on how woke was ruining schools, and then just look at these various stories and the right wing's justification for calling absolutely insane stuff woke. And I've got like a really long list, so I'm going to keep going through it until like I get bored or I feel like I've made my point. So all of that coming up for you today in the video. But before we go any further, please like the video. And I actually asked this on Twitter before I made this video so I didn't miss anything. But what is the most stupid thing you've seen being called woke? I have to say it must be a bank crashing because of wokeness. Like, I think that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but let me know down in the comments. Also, follow me on social media at the Kavernacle on Twitter, but also on Instagram. Instagram is where you can see my posts about my travels around Southeast Asia, and I archive all of them on my highlight reels on my profile page. So if you care about any of that stuff, go check that out. Also, check out my Patreon where I have posted some exclusive travel content. I'm going to upload another video soon. Also, you get access to the Discord server and my Nintendo Switch friend codes. If you care about any of that stuff, please check out the Patreon and also check out my second channel and check out my subreddit down in the description. So I know a lot of my audience don't actually like use Twitter, but this video was going viral on Twitter. And what I love so much about it is that the person on camera like knows it's so stupid that it is going to go viral on Twitter. So the Vanguard pod posting a clip from Rising. So Brianna Joy Gray breaks the brain of Rising guest Bethany Mandel by asking her to define wokeness. And this just has to be like one of the best things I've seen in a long, long time. And I thought it'd be good to start this video talking about it because it just shows there is no real definition of wokeness, and we're going to talk about why that might be. But let's have a look at the video first.
Would you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times, and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
So, I mean, woke is sort of the idea that this is going to be one of those moments that goes viral. Woke is something that's very hard to define, and we've spent an entire chapter defining it. It is sort of the understanding that we need to totally reimagine and redo society in order to create hierarchies of oppression. It's hard to explain in a 15-second soundbite.
Yeah, look,
I mean, it's one of those things that I mean, everybody is weighing in weighing against wokeness. We do some of it on this show as well. It's definitely something, you know what it is when you see it, but
is it wrong?
Yeah. It is.
Will you define wokeness then?
So that is probably one of the best things I've seen in a long, long time. It just shows this thing of woke doesn't actually mean anything concrete and specific. It basically means whatever you want it to mean in attacking left-wing people, left-wing views and stuff like that. But Bethany was coping bad on Twitter. Like, she knew this was going viral and everyone was clowning on her. This clip has gone viral like on every social media. So she retweeted it and said, "So everybody's seen my viral brain fart from Rising this morning. I can see why it went viral, of course. For those who haven't, here it is. A bit of backstory. Just before we went on air, Brianna Joy Gray was on a hot mic. I heard her demeaning parenting in general in colourful and nasty terms, stating parents only have kids in order to perpetuate their own narcissism. Robbie responded, there are some good ones and some bad ones. As a mum of 6, including a newborn, this threw me off just a bit. Not an excuse, just a reality. I'm human. As for wokeness, here's an actual definition. A radical belief system suggesting that our institutions are built around discrimination. And claiming that all disparity is a result of that discrimination, it seeks a radical redefinition of society in which equality of a group result is the endpoint enforced by an angry mob." So this is what wokeness means to her. Just going to read it again. Radical belief system suggesting that our institutions are built around discrimination and claiming that all disparity is a result of that discrimination. Do you guys really see anything wrong with that? Because we're talking about belief systems. So we have patriarchy, we have capitalism, we have racism. These are belief systems completely embedded in Americans' institutions that, yes, do result in inequality. Is it really bad to say that? It's just a fact, but it really shows how all these woke people are so bigoted. Like, pointing out these facts is like, oh wow, you're so woke, and that's bad. Why is it bad? I'm telling you a fact. Like, I'm not making stuff up. This is how our society is built. What's so much more amazing is, in the context of America, these things are so stark as well. Like, this massive settler colonial project built on just like killing all native peoples, bringing in an African slave force and treating them like absolute garbage, bringing in like Chinese laborers and creating a legal system that was so detailed on how you should treat various races in America that Germans in the 1930s came over to study the law because it was one of the most extensive in the world in terms of race, even more so than South Africa at the time, right? And this is what this person is crying about. Again, just say you're a bigot. Say you want things to stay the same. Say you want racism, patriarchy, and capitalism. Say you want all these oppressive systems to say the same. Because who reads that and thinks it's wrong and thinks seeking to end these things are wrong? Of course, lots of people will, but where is their point of view? Conservative bigotry. So that is what this person is advocating for. Also, Cody Johnston put together these, tweets which had different definitions. So Bethany said that one. Then Jim Hansen said, here's my version. Wokeness, an ideology that imposes identity politics, social justice, thought policing, climate hysteria, neo-racism, queer pedology, and socialist equity using statist, corporatist, cultural enforcement. Michael Knowles saying it's a new term for politically correct. So we have various definitions there. The right can't agree on what woke means, because it doesn't really mean anything. It means whatever you want. If one person thinks woke is about leftist people trying to like deconstruct systems that oppress us, other people think it's about politically correct stuff. Other people think it's all about like identity politics and social values. So it's pretty clear none of these people can really agree. Like, to me at least, I proudly say I'm woke because it's funny. I think what woke kind of started as was an attack on liberal identity politics. Like, I don't know, pink washing the US or Israeli military. Like, that is like woke imperialism. It's a phrase that even in that understanding, I can understand how you can use it, right? So we attack like fake woke corporations and like woke capitalism where they're actually using liberal identity politics to sell a product. And that's something I guess we could agree with on the right. They come at it from a place of, now I just hate everything woke, so don't show me it, rather than I don't like corporations cynically using this stuff I support to try and sell me a product to enrich themselves and uphold a system that fundamentally oppresses all of us. So woke can mean many things, but for the far right in America, which is the mainstream Republican movement, it basically is a way to attack anything they don't like, and mainly attack like minorities. But now we're going to get into the really stupid stuff. From Fox News, more woke companies are going to fail, former CEO warns. SVB collapse was perfect storm. So the Silicon Valley Bank collapsed the other day because there was a run on the bank, which was triggered by people pulling out their money. Apparently that's wokeness. So far-right commentator Douglas Murray saying, like everything else in our age, the obsession is not to do with expertise. It is to do with the madness of the so-called DEI project. And if we don't learn from this, if banking sectors and others don't learn from this, I don't know when we will. So the board members apparently at SVB donated to Obama, Clinton, Joe Biden, and local Democrats such as Nancy Pelosi, as well as political action committees for Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Mark Warner, a longtime member of the powerful Senate Banking Committee, according to the Post. I just want to stop there quickly, because how amazing is this, right? They're saying the bank failed because it's woke, and our evidence is that people at the top of the bank who ran the bank donated to Obama, Clinton, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer. What do all these people have in common? Is it that they're woke, or is it that they're totally bought by corporate interests, including the banking sector as well? If you think this represents someone being woke, and they're not actually just donating to Democrats so they deregulate the banking system or enact policies favorable to the banks or bail out the banks, as Obama actually did and Joe Biden as his VP, then you're just crazy, right? And this is how they weaponize this stuff. They say this bank failed because everyone donated to Democrats without people being able to realize that they donated to Democrats because Democrats are really corrupt too. It's not like Democrats constantly attack the banking sector. The only Democrats I see doing that consistently is like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. Did these people donate to them? No. Would they donate to them? Of course they wouldn't, because it's against their interest. Donating to people like Obama, Clinton, and Joe Biden means they will be somewhat beholden to your campaign contributions. It's been well documented for ages that this legalized bribery in America really influences the system. And also what's amazing to me is that these people can't play dumb. The last Republican president basically ran his campaign saying, yeah, I donated to Democrats and Republicans. All these politicians were bought by people like me, so you can't trust them. And now I'm running because I'm the person who used to buy the politicians, and now I can't be bought because I know how the game is played. Obviously, he was lying there. But when you had the old president of the United States actually say this to everyone on Fox News, are you really going to pretend that bank executives given to Democrats means they're woke and they actually don't care about a bank being successful for them because they actually just care about woke politics and, I don't know, woke social issues? Of course not. They are donating to probably both political parties because it's in their best interest. One source told the New York Post, everyone knew it was the go-to bank for woke CEOs. They knew they were aligned politically. The companies SVB loaned money to all had a woke agenda. It's an unbelievable mess, and in many ways completely predictable. Banks crashing because of like greedy executives paying themselves hundreds of thousands just before everyone starts pulling their money out because they're scared they're going to lose everything isn't a result of woke ideology. But even in this, you can see how they're trying to come at it, which is stupid, basically saying they were too focused on having clients that could maybe stop climate change or something, and some of them donated to Democrats. So therefore, all they cared about was the woke agenda. So I fully expect this to actually catch on, where everyone's going to be talking about woke banks. But banks are some of the most immoral places in the world. Banks gamble your money to make themselves insanely wealthy. Banks like HSBC have literally been found guilty of funding organized crime. Barclays Bank funds like Israeli apartheid, right? And we're saying that these banks are now woke because they had lots of clients working in Silicon Valley. Because Silicon Valley is focused on tech, Republicans wrongly think that everyone who works there is some sort of communist, where it's pretty clear that most of the big CEOs in Silicon Valley are all like Ayn Rand objectivist capitalists. They don't care about left-wing politics for the most part. Just because some of them might not hate gay people doesn't mean the banking sector and Silicon Valley is absolutely overflowing with left-wing people. If they choose to fund right-wing Democrat politicians, that doesn't prove they're like big leftists or anything. So moving on from woke banks, we have to go to woke chocolate. You guys might have seen the CEO or the co-founder of the Daily Wire was launching his anti-woke chocolate because, as we all know, the chocolate industry in general is absolutely overflowing with fair labor practices and union movements. Not that it relies on like child labor from poor countries, not that even Mr. Beast's own chocolate is probably made with this same labor. No, Hershey's is now woke. And I read this article on the National Catholic Register. Hershey's chocolate goes woke for Women's History Month. So I'm just going to read this really lovely article. Americans love chocolate. In fact, according to one study, more than 9 million Americans consumed 5 or more servings of Hershey's chocolate in 2020. And most of those customers were women between the ages of 35 and 54. So why would a corporate leader choose to alienate their largest demographic? That is the question a lot of women have been asking following Hershey Canada's announcement of a special wrapper for Women's History Month and International Women's Day on March 8th, featuring a man who says he's a transgender woman. There are actually 5 different wrappers for the Hershey She Bars, as Hershey calls them, but it is the transgender activist Faye Johnston who has most drawn the wrath of conservative women. If Hershey's had really wanted to honor Women's History Month, critics complain, couldn't they have found the real woman? Certainly some of the women and men who enjoy Hershey bars are people who favor Hershey's corporate wokeism, but many of their customers disagree, and those disappointed chocolate lovers will be checking out the alternatives on store shelves. So imagine if you loved Hershey's chocolate. By the way, Hershey's is terrible chocolate, tastes absolutely disgusting. But anyway, if you liked Hershey's chocolate, so you have 5 women, one of them is transgender, and then now Hershey's is like woke and you can't eat the chocolate anymore because you're just so sickened that there's a transgender person in their marketing campaign. Of course, I spoke about this before. I was raised Catholic in London, and I would say, you know, it's fairly progressive Catholic community, but I've constantly said I'm amazed at how insanely right-wing all the Catholics seem to be in America. So these people are just hating it because there's a transgender person in it. And this seems to me like a more traditional attack on wokeism. They see it as like liberal identity politics, where you have to put like a transgender person or a gay person in your advertisement for a capitalist product to kind of sanitize the image. And I've actually seen some right-wing people throw this back in left-wing people's faces saying, well, Hershey's chocolate is made with terrible child labor, but they don't think we'd agree with them, but they don't actually care about that. They're just saying that to try and own left-wing people. They don't care that Hershey's is made in this unethical way. They're just trying to say, oh, you're hypocrites. You support a transgender person being in their advertising campaign. But look, you claim to be so moral and you don't care about this. Meanwhile, we are conservatives, so we don't actually care about the terrible child labor. We just care about seeing a visible transgender person. This is what the attack on woke has mainly been about. They just want to force different minorities out of the public eye. Like, personally, yeah, I don't like woke capitalism, but also I like seeing more minorities who've been historically oppressed and forced out of the public spotlight to be in it if they want to be, and that is generally a good thing in society because it means we're being more tolerant. But like I said, these people, they don't want to see black people, they especially don't want to see black women, they don't want to see transgender people either in anything, so they just cry about it and call it woke and say left-wing people are brainwashing people in gender ideology, and now Hershey is also a communist corporation forcing this on your children. Therefore, you should boycott it. In capitalism, boycott whatever you want, but at the same time, these are the types of people who start crying when left-wing people say they're going to boycott Hogwarts Legacy because of J.K. Rowling. So, of course, we're on like bizarre territory, but moving on to even bizarre by the attack on woke standards is conservatives are calling Xbox woke for the most crazy reason I've ever seen. Washington Post, why conservatives are accusing Xbox of being woke. Microsoft, the tech behemoth behind the video game console, said earlier this month it will update Xboxes to run more efficiently, saving users money on their electric bills and trimming the gaming industry's carbon emissions. That sounds like a pretty good step by Xbox. But now conservative commentators and politicians are lashing out at Xbox, calling the brand woke for worrying too much about the planet. It's crazy what they're doing. Fox News host Jimmy Baylor lamented in a recent segment, they're trying to recruit your kids into climate politics at an early age. Now the woke brigade is after video games, said Young America's Foundation, a conservative group, and Senator Ted Cruz quipped on Twitter, first gas stoves, then your coffee, now they're gunning for your Xbox. Congressman Troy Nehls said they want to take your guns, they want to take your gas stoves, and now they want to take your Xbox. What's next? So isn't that like the most insane culture war thing you've ever heard, right? So Xbox are updating the Xboxes to run better, use less electricity, which will save you money. That is the main thing to focus on here, right? It will save you money and make your product work better for free. Apparently that's woke. Apparently that's bad. Don't you want your things to work better and more efficiently? Do you want to give corporations even more money for no reason? And of course they're saying this, as Xbox talked about emissions, which is probably going to be relatively small compared to probably how much emissions actually producing Xboxes makes and transporting Xboxes and stuff like that, but it's a nice thing nonetheless. And they're acting like they're trying to indoctrinate kids in climate change politics. What does that even mean? Now, what I think is happening here is that I don't even see many people talking about how great capitalism is these days, like generally. It feels like lots of people just say, yeah, well, it's the best system we have, and, you know, all the alternatives are bad. Of course, even people like David Attenborough are saying, like, you know, it's the economic system that's causing climate change, right? And that's just a fact. Capitalism is literally destroying the planet right now. So they're scared that even someone like Xbox saying we want to reduce carbon emissions is going to indoctrinate children in climate politics, which they fear is like anti-capitalism, anti-status quo. But I really don't think any children are going to realize their Xbox has less carbon emissions or is using less power, right? Do children pay the energy bills? Are children going to notice any difference in their Xbox running? Like, are children really going to be on Twitter going, oh, I like Xbox now, doing some good things to reduce carbon emissions? These guys are absolutely stupid. And why I find this one particularly stupid is that it's not even a good culture war grift, right? Because it seems so stupid on the surface. Because even if you're someone who doesn't even believe climate change is real, or you want to like really minimize climate change, which I feel like is really hard to do when it's so visible in like every country right now, then you're still seeing you're going to save money. Everyone likes to save money. You want to spend needless money just to run your Xbox, right? And really them like grasping at straws, because even to most conservatives, they can see this as a dumb issue. I think it really speaks to how crazy they are going with this stuff, just because they feel like they can actually try and make this a legit argument about indoctrinating children into climate politics. And it shows how hollow and meaningless woke is, because on one end, they're attacking corporations for using liberal identity politics, and then they're attacking corporations for making you save money. and saying it comes from the same place. Like, it's absolutely stupid. Now, of course, a lot of these corporations haven't like backed down because the argument is stupid. All these conservatives love capitalism. Of course, corporations doing these marketing campaigns, they have researched if it will affect their sales, right? Do all these people think corporations don't spend a ton of money on market research? I know what a corporation does, like a woke ad campaign, they've already seen what the metrics are. They've done focus groups, they've tested this. They know this will help them, and they've made a calculated decision that this backlash from the right wing is not a decisive factor in if this product will sell well. So Hershey's does that and stuff like that. But one company that did back down was M&M. So M&M's ditches Spokes candies after Tucker Carlson complained about their sexiness. M&M's announced Monday that it will no longer use its famous cartoon character Spokes candies after apparently getting sick of dealing with waves of conservative uproar about the way the animated chocolates dress. Obviously, their tweet, "America, let's talk. In the last year, we've made some changes to our beloved Spokes candies. We weren't sure if anyone would even notice, and we definitely didn't think it would break the internet, but now we get it. Even a candy's shoes can be polarizing, which was the last thing M&M's wanted since we're all about bringing people together. Therefore, we have decided to take an indefinite pause from the Spokes candies. In their place, we are proud to introduce a spokesperson America can agree on, the beloved Maya Rudolph. We are confident Miss Rudolph will champion the power of fun to create a world where everyone feels they belong." So of course it's absolutely stupid to bow down to the right-wing mob because Tucker Carlson started complaining about how sexy the M&Ms were. But also whoever runs the M&Ms like ad campaigns, do they not realize that Maya Rudolph is going to be called like the woke face of M&Ms too, right? Someone whose mother is African American and whose father is Jewish, do you think they're not going to call that woke? Of course they are, because woke means whatever they want it to be. If it's M&M candies who look sexy, or if it's a black and Jewish woman being the face of your marketing campaign, they see that as the same thing. They see both those things as ripe to attack for their culture war. So you're not satisfying them because they will never be satisfied. Like I said, they've changed it from M&Ms to Maya Rudolph. It doesn't matter. Xbox was called woke for saving you money. All these ridiculous things are just part of a conservative culture war, which is never going to end. And what's annoying is, although I have no faith in corporations, it's so dumb how none of them will stand up to themselves because they're so terrified of infuriating a lot of these people. Like, fair enough, some of them do stuff with like woke identity politics and they actually stick by it. But it's like back in the day with Jack Thompson going after video games because of GTA, and like Rockstar fought back against that and really satirized him and like didn't back down and everything. It feels like now corporations are so scared of the right wing, they will actually give in to these insane arguments which have no basis in reality. Like, some of these arguments about woke corporations made Jack Thompson's like crusade against video games look like it had some merit or something, because at least you can understand the reasoning, although it's stupid, right? Like, violent video games make people violent. At least there's some like train of logic of like exposing people to violent things and like influencer actions. Even though that's been thoroughly debunked, it at least makes some kind of logical sense. All of this stuff makes no sense at all. It's just a further push against leftism in general, because if you say you're anti-woke, most of the time you're not just against like corporations using liberal identity politics, if that's like the traditional understanding of this term after it was co-opted from like black movements against racism. It probably means you hate minorities and you're using it as cover to really push your racist or bigoted agenda to other people. And because I cover like anti-SJW nerd channels, they do this so much. I made a whole video about why they target black women specifically, basically saying anything with a black female actress in the TV show, game, or movie is woke now, because they're just pushing racism. And especially when something is remade, like The Little Mermaid, for example, where Ariel is now played by a black actress, they're saying, get your own thing, make your own stories. But when something like Black Panther comes out, they're still crying about it. They're like, oh, woke propaganda, anti-white racism and stuff like that. They won't be satisfied. There is no point trying to satisfy them. Like, recently, I think Neil Druckmann said about The Last of Us Part 2, like, I don't care about the backlash. And I think that's the right attitude to take for anyone who gets criticized for being like too woke. Because like the backlash to The Last of Us was literally just motivated by transphobia and homophobia, right? So why would you take that seriously? You wouldn't. And like with Xbox, why would you take that seriously? That you've gone woke and you're indoctrinating kids into climate politics by reducing emissions and saving people money. So people just can't back down about this because it's so stupid, it's so manufactured, and it's used as a smokescreen to just be a racist, right? And so many far-right people love this because, like, in public society, especially in like the 2010s, it felt like you couldn't really say a lot of homophobic and racist stuff outright anymore. It felt like culturally this is changing. But now you don't need to say that. You just say woke. And you can be as racist as you want. You can be as anti-Semitic as you want. You can be as bigoted as you want because, oh no, you're just fighting wokeness. You hate wokeness. You hate the woke mind virus. So you can literally just be an outright fascist and say all this stuff and hide behind wokeness because now it's so culturally acceptable to talk about stuff like this. So these people just push it, and it's just getting so stupid now. Like, it makes no sense. The Xbox thing and the bank thing in particular are so crazy. I don't know how people don't take it seriously, but they've managed to brainwash so many people in like this anti-woke mindset that people genuinely believe that somehow banks are woke and they do everything for woke politics. So anyway, that is it for the video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.